Today I have a very, very special guest on our YouTube channel, Stephanie Menuez, who was my partner in crime working in San Francisco for about 13 years for me, and she was the rock of my West Coast business. When she decided to move to New York, it made me sick. And you too. It really was a bummer, but Stephanie has decided I've asked Stephanie to come on the show, and we're going to talk about stuff. So Stephanie was an agent with me. She now does consulting, and she works freelance with other agencies, but she's absolutely an amazing woman, and I love her to death. Hey, Steph.
Hi, Michael. I love you too.
That's cool. How are you?
I'm good.
Cool.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. We're trying to win it. We're trying to win an Emmy here. So, Steph, let's get into it because, you know, we worked together for a long, long time, and I think that you really got a lot from me about how I see the business, how I promote photographers, how I showcase the work from their heart and soul. Tell me how it's evolved for you and how you did it when we were together and now when you're on your own as the same thing. Tell me a little bit about where you're at and what you feel.
Well, yeah, you nailed it in terms of the way you mentored me and trained me and brought me into the business and how we worked together was always completely on the same page in terms of, showing the right edits and the right, portfolios and the right work, the right photographers to the right creatives to get the correct, appropriate work that showcased them the best that they could. And you really inspired me always with that. And, I'm always quoting you in my head. And sometimes I'm saying your name, and, I'm always hearing you in my head too, because we're so long together as a team.
Yeah.
And, whether working as a freelance consultant, sometimes I do estimates for photographers that are in between agents.
Oh, that's cool.
An agent.
Right.
And it's like they've known me for 30 years, I was all the way from the beginning to the end, I'm their agent on that project.
Cool.
And you learn a lot, and it's like, it keeps me really current with what's going on in the industry.
Right.
And
hey, Steph, when you do those kind of things, do you work with an outside producer on that? Are they bringing a producer to you, or are you just estimating their fees?
They come to me with the project, and I hook them up with a great producer if need be.
Cool.
Sure.
Cool.
Or if we have a producer, I just jump in like I did on a regular job with you, and I take it forward. I look over the production numbers and cut them as needed. I negotiate for them. The whole thing.
Right.
And I help with the treatment, the edit, the copy, getting the whole package put in, and hopefully closing the deal. And then if there's any issues, they come to me. And, and so I do that. But
that's smart.
Consulting, I've been so inspired lately, as I know you have so many different types of artists out there, including illustrators.
Yes.
And it's so fun to do the edits with them or on my own, and I put it back to them, and we work very closely on edits. Because I want to give the stories, I want to know what they're sick of, what they love, what they're, really so we get to it like, all right, here's where we got to cut, check, and here's where we got to push this forward.
Right.
Help people decide what new work they need to shoot for specific markets, help them decide where their markets are.
Right.
So that's how it's evolved for me.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. I'm glad you're doing that. We work together with so many wonderful photographers and so many wonderful creative people that we worked with, whether it was creative management. Were you with me in creative management? Yep. And then Radical Media, and then I think the whole thing, I think then it fell apart after Radical Media, right? Wasn't that when it was?
No, Radical Media transitioned into my collection.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah, it was much better. What do you think about the film that photographers are doing? Do you think that's a smart thing to do?
Well, only if it's done correctly, because as we know, the more photographers I work with that have a video component to their project, the more I realize how complex it can be.
Yes.
And how much time needs to be in each day of shooting for you to be able to do. You can't just do both.
Yes.
It's like you need the cinematographer, videographer, person overseeing and directing.
Yes.
And you've got to have that in time to get those skills. If, let's say it's a lifestyle library shoot.
Right.
It just depends. But I think it's great if they are really passionate about it and can really do it and develop a really great reel and have the content that they need.
Well, I think it's
just half done.
Yeah, and it has to be, I mean, I've always felt, because even when we were together, even if they wanted to do some side of a film, we were always able to put the right people around them. So the lighting and the direction and the composition was still coming from the photographer, but the way it all comes together comes from the people that know how to do it. And I still believe it should be done that way as well. You know?
It really is like, what have they put their time into, and, you know, show me the work.
Yeah. And also they're not paying. They're not paying extra money for that stuff. They want it to be piggybacked on, and and too many of us just let it be, like always. It's so frustrating, you know?
Yeah, it is.
It's so frustrating.
Oh, well, let's not get going.
Yeah, right? Well, we could.
Expectations.
So what do you think? You know, you're seeing a lot of photography, and I am as well, and I just took on 2 new photographers, actually. They're going to be on my website soon, and actually a 3rd one as well. Someone that we worked with in the past. That'll be exciting when I tell you. And but I don't want to say anything yet. But, you know, what do you see out there when photographers come to you for consultations, and they're coming to you with their website? Are they coming to you with portfolios? Are they still interested in doing printed portfolios? Is their website too loaded with too many pictures? What do you see? Because I know I could tell you, but I want to hear from you what you think and what you see.
In a nutshell, they're usually loaded with a lot of pictures, a lot of folders that just need to be reorganized and cleaned up really quickly.
Right.
It doesn't have to take forever and ever. It's not rocket science. It's just them trusting my vision and having collaboration to help them once I'm really, really clear. And so, yeah, it's more, I do see a lot of folders that are kind of too much stuff, and no one has time to click through all that stuff.
Yes.
So I like to condense them
Yes.
as few as possible that are really strong, and then yes, the printed portfolio I love.
Yep.
And you know, it's like a couple of people recently I helped them do their portfolios, and they were more seasoned pros.
Yep.
So they believe in the printed book too, and picking the right printing options. There's so many affordable ones.
Sure.
Beautiful paper, beautiful format. You can do that sexy magazine format. There's lots of great styles, and it doesn't have to be so expensive.
Right.
You should absolutely have a printed book.
Yeah, I agree. I think that art form needs to come back. And I think photographers, even if photographers have agents, I think that photographers need to make more appointments, or the agents have to make appointments for them so they can go see people in person with portfolios, especially for the photo, you know, the photo editors at the magazines. Because I think, and I've said this before, that the photo editors at the magazines are the most visionary people in the industry today. I think that they are still really capable of seeing what's on a page and knowing the potential of a particular photographer from seeing and feeling the work.
It's so immediate, and you're really looking at not like creating an ad and copying all this stuff around it. It's more visual, I guess. That's how I built that. But also, when you're in a meeting, which you should absolutely agree with you, go on as many meetings as possible, because the FaceTime is invaluable. It's precious these days, and they want to meet you and all that important stuff. But when you're there, oftentimes, as you recall, and going on a lot more meetings than I am these days, they bring in other people into the room. Are you going to sit there with your little, screen?
iPad,
be able to show people, like, it's much better to have a few things with you. Your phone, your iPad, maybe your laptop, some leave behinds, so that you can engage 3 or 4 people.
I know a few years ago, I think when I did Le Book a long time ago, and they invited me to come and see it in New York before I decided to do it for us. And I came in, and as soon as I walked into the building, I think it was the Puck building in New York, immediately I said I wanted to do it because every agent that was there had piles and piles and piles of portfolios. And I had an idea immediately that I wanted to do an agency book, which I still do to this day. And I remember when I did the book, I sat at a table that I put in front of my space with 2 chairs in front of me and a desk. And I just did less meetings, but more meetings that meant more. So it's not about how many people you see, it's the quality of the person that you're seeing and the relationship that you get with that one-on-one. What I feel is important for us is not to lose what we've had in the past, because what we had in the past helps us be who we are today.
Yeah.
And that's when I also think that young photographers need to learn a little bit more about the old photographers that have passed, from Mr. Irving Penn and Richard Avedon and Helmut Newton and Diane Arbus and Mary Ellen Mark, you know, and there's so August Sander, who's one of my favorite photographers from the early 1900s. You know, these people need to be studied, because that's the magic photography. That's when photography was really real art. And I find that what we have now, very distinctive style and very powerful pictures. And today, because there's so much digital, there's such a lack of, I don't want, not passion, but there's just a lack of texture. Maybe that's the word. I'm not even sure if that's the right word. But, you know, I think that it's important for young photographers and even old photographers. I mean, right behind me on my desk, I have tons of books behind me that I'll look through once in a blue moon just to get inspired, you know?
You need that, especially if you're doing editing.
Yeah.
I do. I feel the same way. But, and that's what you and I always worked really hard on, those, you know, those introductory developmental calls with the art producers.
Yes.
For creative call is to find out, you know, not just everything that they want and need and how we can fit our artists to it, but how can they also understand the process of this art.
Yes.
Remember, we used to just talk.
No, you were fantastic at that stuff. Really explaining to art buyers the process. I was really amazed at how intricate you were and how detailed oriented you are when you did that. I think look, we were together for a reason. You were fucking dynamite. Period.